You know, for over 50 years, the Spanish filmmaker Luis Buñuel was one of cinema's most celebrated and, let's be honest, most baffling artists. His films are just so strange, they're provocative, and they have a way of burning themselves into your memory. But what if all that strangeness, all that surreal imagery, wasn't random at all? What if there was a hidden logic to his madness? I mean, right from the very beginning, Buñuel was a sensation. His first film, which he made with Salvador Dali way back in the silence era, was an instant scandal. It became this landmark of surrealism that even now, almost a century later, people are still trying to figure out. And it all kicks off with one absolutely unforgettable image.
Yep, you heard that right. The film literally starts with Buñuel himself, sharpening a razor, looking up at the moon, and then slicing an eyeball in an extreme close-up. It's basically a declaration of war on anyone watching passively. It's a sign that you're entering a world where the normal rules of reality, and frankly, good taste, just do not apply.
So you had to ask, what was driving all this? Was he just trying to shock people for the fun of it? Or was there some deeper obsession at work here? Because this isn't just random surrealism, it's a targeted attack. Buñuel had very specific things in his sights, and understanding what those were is the first step to unlocking his whole bizarre universe.
So who were his primary targets? Well, time and time again, Buñuel aimed his cinematic artillery at two huge pillars of society: the church and the wealthy class he actually came from, the bourgeoisie. His films are just this incredible catalog of rebellion against their conventions, their morals, and most of all, their hypocrisy.
And believe me, he was not subtle about it. In L'Âge d'Or, a bishop gets casually tossed out a window. In the legendary Viridiana, an orgy of beggars turns into this shocking, blasphemous parody of Da Vinci's Last Supper. In another film, he dreams of anarchists shooting the Pope. And in another, a whole flock of sheep pours into a church, directly mirroring the congregation that just left. This wasn't just a passing phase for him. This was a lifelong crusade. And this quote, this is his most famous one, and it just captures the paradox at the heart of everything he did. "I'm an atheist, thank God." So he claims to be an atheist, right? But he is completely, utterly obsessed with God, with sin, with saints, with all the rituals of faith. He just couldn't leave religion alone. It was the central fight of his entire life and career. And that brings us to another puzzle. For a director whose films are just filled with chaotic, dreamlike images, his actual filmmaking style was incredibly disciplined. People often compare him to Alfred Hitchcock because he was so meticulous, so efficient. He knew every single shot before he even arrived on set. So how does this precise, almost clinical craftsman produce films that are just spasming with the irrational?
Okay, to solve this, we need to pivot a little. We need to look away from his targets, the church, the bourgeoisie, and focus on his central theme. Because all of his attacks on society, all of his blasphemy, it all stems from his deep, almost scientific fascination with one single thing: human desire. What we want, why we want it, and the absolute chaos that follows. The writer Henry Miller just hit the nail on the head here. See, when Buñuel was a young man, he actually studied entomology, the science of insects, and he brought that same dispassionate, analytical eye to his films. He looks at human passions not like a romantic, but like a scientist observing insects, just exposing the hidden, often brutal machinery that really drives us. Okay, so we've got a super precise director who's obsessed with the irrationality of our desires. How do we make that make sense? Well, the answer might actually lie outside of film entirely, in a philosophical theory that provides a stunningly effective key for unlocking Buñuel's world. And that idea is called mimetic desire. It was developed by the philosopher René Girard. The core concept is deceptively simple. We don't just spontaneously want things. We have to learn what to want by imitating other people. Our desires are borrowed. They're copied from a model. We desire, as Girard put it, according to the other. So, desire isn't a straight line from me to the thing I want. No, according to Girard, it's a triangle. You've got the subject, that's the person doing the wanting. You've got the object they want, but, and this is the crucial part, there's a third person, the mediator. The subject only wants the object because they see the mediator wanting it first. The mediator's desire is what makes the object suddenly seem so desirable. But why do we copy one person and not another? Well, that's where something called tutelary belief comes in. We don't just imitate randomly. We imitate people we hold certain beliefs about, that they're superior or more sophisticated, maybe more powerful, or that they're just closer to some kind of ideal.
We basically grant them a special status that makes their desires seem like the correct ones we should have too.
So now, armed with this theory of copied desire, let's go back and look at Buñuel's films, because suddenly, his lifelong obsession with failed saints and blasphemous rebellion starts to make a whole new kind of sense. You see, he isn't just attacking religion, he's dissecting the very mechanism of imitation that religion is built on.
Let's just take his masterpiece, Viridiana. The young novice Viridiana, her goal is a perfect example of mimetic desire. She wants to imitate her mediator, Jesus Christ, by living a life of pure charity. So what does she do? She brings a group of beggars to her estate to care for them. But they don't imitate her saintly desires. No, they start imitating each other's much more earthly desires, for food, for drink, for sex, which leads to that infamous chaotic orgy. Her attempt to copy a perfect divine model completely collapses in the face of messy, competitive human imitation.
And you see this pattern all over his work. In his film Nazarin, a priest tries to live the Gospels literally, and he only ends up bringing disaster to everyone he tries to help. In film after film, Buñuel presents us with these failed saints. Their mediator is always Christ, the ultimate model, and their outcome is always failure. And you have to ask why. Because trying to imitate a perfect divine model is pretty much doomed in a world governed by flawed human-to-human imitation. Girard's theory gives us the final piece of the puzzle. He makes a distinction between two kinds of mediators. An external mediator, like a god or a saint, is so distant, so far above us, that you can imitate them without causing any conflict. But an internal mediator, that's someone who is close to you, a friend, a neighbor, a rival. And when you start copying their desires, you inevitably start wanting the exact same things they do, which leads directly to competition, jealousy, and conflict. Buñuel's entire world is one of failed external mediation, giving way to chaotic, destructive internal mediation.
So, what does this all mean when we put it all together? Well, we now have a totally new way of seeing Buñuel's entire career. The puzzle we started with, the shocking images, the blasphemy, that deep obsession with desire, it all starts to resolve into a really clear and coherent picture.
This is the key. Buñuel's surrealism isn't just random chaos designed to shock you, it's his way of portraying the invisible logic of mimetic desire. The ants crawling from a hand, the dinner guests who physically can't leave a room, these are all meticulous, almost scientific depictions of a humanity that is completely trapped by the desires it copies from others.
And that, of course, leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question. Buñuel used his films to expose the mediators of his time, the church, the aristocracy, the saints. He showed us that their desires weren't divine, but were just constructed and copied, which forced us to ask, if our desires are also a copy, who are our mediators? Who are we all copying today?